catch up. All right, so let's get started. So first of all, welcome everybody to webinar 2. This is week 2 of your program, and it is day 9. So tomorrow is day 10, which is our first update, and I'm really excited to see what and how much has been caused in 10 days of this program. We have previously, usually the average people lose is somewhere around the 2 to 3 kilo mark. And of course, that varies based on your body weight as a percentage. But we've had people lose as much as, I think, 5.4 kilos in 10 days. So really amazing results have been caused. And especially at the start of the program, when we immediately make these simple and small tweaks to our lifestyle, we begin to see some quick and very noticeable results. So to set context about what we're going to cover on today's webinar, it is this quote by Aristotle, which is, "Excellence is an art won by training and habituation. We are what we repeatedly do. Excellence then is not an act, but a habit." You know, one thing you guys should all know, and having joined this program, you've all joined this program because what we are doing is we are creating a new lifestyle. What we provide as an organization is an education for a new lifestyle, and one that will last you a lifetime. But this is not going to last you a lifetime if you are here looking to do what you always do. You're going to have to be here to really discover that nothing changes if nothing changes. And you will have to really begin to create new aspects and designs of your life and program. Even those of you that are anchoring, I want to let you guys know, those of you that are anchoring, you've got to again re-inspect your life and routine. Because you were able to transform you from point A to point B on a prior challenge doesn't necessarily mean that will serve this program. You'll find that those of people that are new joiners might have more responsiveness, quicker results, and I find this out myself as I've gone through now 3 or 4 challenges. Every so often our bodies adapt and they begin to perform with ease at a certain level, and we need to keep interrupting that routine. Not necessarily messing it up, but really looking at which part of our routine has become so comfort, or which part of our routine did we never really incorporate with proper integrity. Which one did we incorporate with proper integrity, and now, as an example, maybe you've stopped weighing your cereal when you put it in your bowl, or you're putting your smoothie ingredients and you're putting a little bit of extras and you're not weighing those. Those are the things that you want to look at. Or where are you going for a walk on a Monday and a Tuesday, and then you miss Wednesday, Thursday, and Friday, and then you try and do it on the weekend like you can catch up. That's where we need to look at, where we need to bring in integrity, where we need to redesign a routine that is really going to work for us and cause awesome results. So as we move on for that, I'd love to hear from someone to read through this slide. And 9 days in, I would love to hear, as you go through this slide, what have you discovered? Because this is the objective overall of the webinars. And each week as we read this and get present to what is it we're doing, why are we doing what we're doing, you'll begin to see the elements of this objective show up. So who would like to go? You can unmute yourself, or you can raise your hand and I'll give you a go ahead.
What is it you actually want us to do, sorry, with this slide?
So first of all, just read it through. Read it from the Inspiring Life series right down to the last paragraph, and then share what of this is showing up inside your world.
Oh, okay. The Inspiring Life series, sorry, Orleen, if you don't mind me doing it. Welcome to life. Objective. At the end of this challenge, I will be someone who, oh, you've changed this. Oh, there you go. 1, has altered my own relationship to food, exercise, and myself. 2, understands the real role of my body, mind, and intellect. 3, leverages social media to inspire my community and my world to live in a healthy lifestyle, to transform lives. Social media is now filled with positive, healthy, and inspiring content. The world and the lives around me are now inspired and choose to start living life. Love, life, live.
All right, excellent. So So what of that's showing up inside of your world?
Okay. So what's, I guess I'm improving. I'm aiming to, I'm improving to some degree my relationship with exercise. In that I have been doing a little bit more walking on the days that I haven't got anything planned. So like today I decided I had to go to the post office.
Yeah.
And I thought, well, actually, I can go to the post office, and then from the post office, I can walk to the other place that I need to go to. Whereas beforehand, I might have just walked to the post office, come home, and then got on a bus.
Yeah.
So I did that. And can you change the slide back? I don't know why it keeps going back to this other slide. Right, okay. I guess there is an alteration going on in my relationship to food. I haven't quite bought into measuring everything. I did for the smoothies initially, but after that, I don't think I've measured anything. So that's that'd be interesting. I think I understand the real role of my body and my mind and my intellect anyway. But I think it's going to improve it. And the social media, I'm fine. This is quite interesting. I think this actually sharing.
Yeah.
Again, curious to see how it shifts me.
Yeah.
But I'm stepping up to have a go.
Awesome.
And see what it does.
Awesome. So I just want to acknowledge that I saw your post on that as well, right? And meaning where you shared that you're figuring this out around sharing and the role it plays, and it's really important. We know this for all of us who are in entrepreneurship, all of us that are on say social media, and we are trying to grow a social media following, meaning each of us in our own individual worlds or whatever it is, we're trying to make an impact. And one of the common themes that always comes there is about making sure that what we put out there is value add to people. And so you always have to authentically look at when you type something out, is this a post for me to say, hey, look at me, look what I'm doing, I'm amazing, wow? Or is it, you can still acknowledge yourself and what you've accomplished and what you've really impressed yourself by. So you can demonstrate what you've covered, but do it from a point of, I really want you the reader, you the viewer, to get that you can too, because I was stuck thinking I couldn't. And so simply sharing that this is me having my smoothie, and you're sharing it, say, on your public page, say having Green Goddess smoothie, and say maybe something you learned about it that I didn't realize that I could have this larger glass and it's only 95 calories, whereas I have half a Coke and it's 380 calories or whatever it is, right? So you really want to, something like that will come to you. There'll be some cognition that you realize, that you distinguish. And those are the things to share, because whatever we learn through discovery is, first of all, we learn at a different level. But when we learn it through discovery and we articulate it in a manner to teach it forward, when you want to teach it to somebody, you really give it some form of existence by explaining exactly what it is. Or it might be simply that, wow, it takes me 25 minutes to burn 250 calories, and I had this one small bag of nuts, and that was 300 calories. So wow, I've got quite a lot to burn. So you'll really understand that correlation. Or 2 packets of crisps or a packet of crisps, that is 250 calories, and you really realize that, wow, that's 250 calories, and it takes me so long to burn. What I consume in 2.5 minutes takes me 35 minutes to burn, right? And you really begin to understand the relationship between food and exercise. But you understand, it becomes ingrained in you when you can write that down and share it out there, because it may also lead to a question or a comment from somebody, or them inquiring. And when you have to discover what you need to discover to explain that further to them, you learn this at a different level. And we really are looking
Okay.
to have this be lifestyle education that lasts a lifetime. So this is effectively how it's going to shift from consciously knowing something to it being ingrained in your subconscious. So that's what we want to do, including with when we say weigh the foods. You might not weigh the foods, or you might do it once and think you've got it figured out. I want you to consider that moment in time. Let's call it your identity or your ego emerges and says, I know what I'm doing. But really, what will happen is our ego or our mind is really not a great measure. Our mind is actually something that is a relative tool, a relative muscle. So it will only make a judgment on something based on its last experience of it. So it might think it's the same, less or more, but that's not necessarily accurate. Now, for 90 days, if you do record everything, you'll really over 90 days or 12 weeks of doing something as a habit, it lasts us longer term. It per se becomes permanent. So I said this, and I said it for a while. After I did my first or two challenges, for a long period of time, I would go without measuring food. But guess what happened? About a year on, I really realized when I started measuring my foods again that I'd gone totally off what I thought the measurements were. So when I thought I was putting 30 grams of oats or something, I was putting 50 grams of oats, and yet it looked like and felt like the same. And so, measuring that is really a way of learning it, so that you can really get it ingrained in your subconscious. So do take that on. We often say on this challenge there'll be many moments you will see this cupcake, or you'll see this vegan cake which has loads of added sugar in it, and you think, oh, it says vegan, must be healthy, but it has loads of sugar. You go and consume it, and in your mind you're convinced yourself just this once. But on the flip side, I'm asking you guys for just this once in your life, for just this 190 day window of your entire 15 years or 20 years or 30 years or 60 years of your life. I'm asking you to try this once this way. So sticking to the design of the program and see what shows up for you. All right.
Okay.
All right,
Thank you.
awesome, excellent, and thank you so much for your generous share. All right, so let's crack on. So very quick one, recap on webinar one. Some of you guys are joined after webinar one. I hope you've watched the recording. What we looked at in webinar one, and if you haven't watched the recording, I really invite you to listen to it again. There is an energy that I'm very present to about this group. And this group, really, there was sharing, and there was me being able to articulate and word stuff in a manner that will really serve for the rest of the program. So even if you're doing this program as an encore, if you missed webinar one, please go and watch that recording again. We really explained, and there's some new aspects to it that I might have shifted if you're doing this as an encore, around explaining and articulating how transformative learning works and how we create this new mental construct, and really distinguishing the world that we came from. And as a reminder, and also in a response, I think Vanessa had some posts there, and anyone else who has questions about where we are on the program so far, what there is to do, please ask them again at the end. But from webinar one, as mentioned, and for basically the rest of the 90 days of this program, and possibly if you choose to take on the invite at the end for most of your life, carrying on the 747 as a bare minimum of our life is what is going to cause the bulk of the results. So each week we will introduce new concepts, new aspects, new challenges. There will be moments in the program where we provide you with an interrupt routine or something else to take on. But as a bare minimum, if you don't manage to do everything introduced newly each week, but if you stuck to 747, which is 7 days of walking your 40 to 60 minutes, 4 days of resistance training, whether it's at home with your body weight or in the gym. And yes, we recommend joining a gym, but if you don't, you can still do it from home. At least 4 days of resistance training and 7 days of recording your food. Right, doing that for the 90 days of the program will cause the bulk of the results, and you'll be really, really amazed how it's the simple things that make the largest difference. And then there will be more that we keep adding on. So again, how you do anything is how you do everything, they say. But you guys are on a transformation program, so how you always did things is what you're looking to interrupt. So if you hadn't done your assignment, my invite for you guys is to do it. Do a little video, introduce yourself if you haven't yet done that, because I want you to get that the power of you shows up in your feeling at home inside of the community. So please do that, because when you do that, you create the homely space for others, and that's where you discover your leadership, that you're the person they've been waiting for, rather than the other way around. Make your surroundings work for you. In when it comes to transformation, one of the first things we have to do is alter our environment and alter our company. What I mean by that is, no one's saying to go ditch your friends. What I'm saying is that you've already created new company by being part of this FITBANKER campus, and you want to exploit that. You want to leverage that community. You want to ask questions. You want to discover. This is just coincidental that Ambika's Monday morning talk was on the topic of power of community. So really distinguish and get present to who you have on that group. We have loads of people that can support us with a lot of stuff. There is the team, which is Alyssa, Emma, Ambika, and myself. If you want a response specifically from any or one of us, do please tag us. But also there are many people that have done this program from when we started over 2 years ago. There are 8 medical doctors on there. There are naturopaths on there. There's a nutritionist on there. A dietitian, sorry, which is slightly definition-wise in regulatory terms, it means something else. And so, there are a lot of people there that can support you on any queries you have. They won't give you professional medical advice, and wherever it's a medical issue or an injury or something like that, obviously your first point of contact is go to your standard procedure, whether it's A&E or your GP or whatever is required. Okay. And then the third one was an observation assignment. So we said start to get related to what you eat. Start to think about, I've just eaten this banana. I've eaten these 10, 11 almonds in my hand. And as I took those 11 almonds, they're dry roasted ones. They have salt on them. And as I consume them, what happens to the salt as it goes on my tongue? What happens as it goes down through my digestive system? What happens as it gets into my stomach? Then what happens to it? Does it go through various parts of my body? Does it go out as waste? Start getting into the inquiry of what exactly is happening to food. What happens to this Coke when I consume it? And if I consumed a Coke that had loads of sugar, or did I consume a Coke that had no sugar and was Coke Zero? Or did I consume water? What happens to that? How does it actually, what's its journey inside of our body? So that's something that we're going to explore briefly here, but I want you guys to still be in the inquiry, but in more detail in webinar 3. So webinar 3 is in many ways really, really, really powerful. It is one of the very, very pivotal webinars of this entire program, where we discuss metabolism. All right, so to get started, it's a question for you guys, and anybody can answer. Feel free to unmute yourself and respond. So I'd love to know, anyone here, the question is, are you healthy? And when you say that, I'd love to know why you say whatever your answer is. So who would like to go? Unmute yourself and share.
I don't mind sharing again. God, I'm getting a bit carried away now.
Yeah, now we can't stop you, Aline. That's exactly what we want. That's the transformation.
It's wild. Okay, so I think I am healthy. I can be healthier, but I think I am healthy. I think I'm healthy because I'd say 60% of my diet is raw vegetable based.
Okay.
I do have I do juice a few times. I was juicing a few times a week anyway, and they tend to be vegetable with a little bit of fruit, because I tend to have apples, a couple of apples in there in the juicing. I've always done some form of exercise, and I've spent a lot of time doing the mind stuff. So really shutting out, just not indulging in sort of negative thought patterns. So I'm curing my TV addiction, but I gave up watching soap stuff like EastEnders and that lot a few years ago. I think after I got Anthony Robbins, actually, because that whole thing about, I was sitting there watching a whole load of, sadly, drama does seem to be quite negative. I was never a big fan of news. That was actually just, it was boring, and it was also quite stressful.
Yeah.
But then the drama stuff as well. I really don't. Most of the time I'm looking for the positive way of looking at things.
Yeah.
I drink. I'm up to I think I've now got to a point where I drink up to about 2 liters of water a day. So yeah, I think I'm generally pretty healthy.
Awesome. It's lovely to hear your definition of what you're saying is healthy. That is very much aligned with some of the aspects of what we look at. I also loved how you touched on the elements that contribute to stress, which is what impacts our thoughts, and therefore impacts our emotion, and therefore impacts our hormonal levels, which is things like TV and news and so on. And one of the big things in no, it's not something we cover in depth, but there's another program in this world that coaches on people that are looking to turn around or transform cancer as an area. And one of the things that they're big on is talking about getting off all these discontinue watching drama, discontinue watching horror or crime, discontinuing from watching news because of the negativity that comes from there, and how our mind processes that. And we really build them up as our personal worries when we get so present to that in the world every day. So really interesting to hear that you've got that. Question for you is...
Sorry, I also do meditation. It took me a few years to get into it regularly, but I do actually meditate on a regular basis as well, which actually does make a difference.
Awesome.
Really great difference.
Awesome. Lovely to hear. So here's the question for you: is when you say that 60, did you say 60 or 80% of your food is vegetables? Is it?
I mean, I've thrown that number around.
Okay.
I totally catch your point that I don't write things down.
Yeah.
So, and that's why I know I could be healthier.
Yeah.
Which is one of the reasons I've joined this. But yeah, most days I am now having. I used to be a meat and 2 meat girly.
Yeah.
And I would say I eat meat probably once a week. I will have fish.
Yeah.
For the protein. But most of my meals comes with a salad, raw salad, and the juicing. So I'm throwing it out there as sort of 60% because it seems like quite most days I am.
Yeah, got it.
But I've never actually really done the number work on it.
Got it. Okay, excellent. So here's a question or something for you to look at as you explore this week and as you record. Yes. When we say 60 or 80 or even 50%, the question is that by weight of food or is that by calories, right? Now, that's a thing that we've never really looked at more often than not. I used to think of the ratio or percentage of the plate, which was, again, different from weight and different from calories. But where we will really understand what role it plays inside of us is what we're going to look at in today's webinar. So it's a good thing that you mentioned that. So an assignment for you to go and explore and distinguish is by what measure is it a certain percentage. So let's have a look at that. And what's brilliant about Olin's answer is that more often than not, and many of us on this program, if you are answering the question in your mind, more often than not, we judge whether we are healthy based on how we look, how we feel, or how much we weigh. Right now, weighing is just a very, very, very high level indicator, and more often than not, it could be very misleading. So our weight and our BMI aren't necessarily a real indication of our health. However, for a good part of the 70s, 80s, 90s, and early noughties, and even now, many people still refer to weight as an indicator of their well-being. We do now, and that's simply because of mechanical or technological limitations. We now do have scales, as we use in this program, and as is our focus on body composition. So we can actually tell what we are made up of, and knowing that, we can identify our body, which is a byproduct of our habits, and the habits is what Olin spoke of, is what defines whether we are healthy. So that's what we're going to look at. We are what we repeatedly do. We are what we repeatedly eat, when we eat, and when and what type of training. One of the big things that many other fitness programs or schools around health miss is they miss the correlation between the timing of food and the timing of exercise. And that's something that we pay a lot of emphasis and attention on. And that's something that I would love each of you all to discover mastery as you go through your 90 days. So we're also going to today look at understanding the power of community. We look at Facebook, FitBanker teams. I don't want to say Facebook, teams or buddies. I think for the size of this program, from what I understand, is that we will be creating buddies. And so that we have somebody to support us, somebody that we can check in on daily, somebody that you can keep personally accountable via text or just share what you're struggling with. And it might be a group of 2 or 3 of you or whatever works for you, and also that you can just have fun along the way. As we go through this challenge, and as we always go through in life, each of us will go through various things happening in our world. We will have changes, we'll have challenges inside of things like our relationship. We'll have challenges with our relationships, with our family, with money, with career, with finance, with various things. And you want to understand that all of these are interconnected with our well-being and our lifestyle. So to think of them as separate buckets of areas to deal with, as that's not health, is quite misleading. And we're actually taught to deal with them as separate buckets rather than that they're all integrated and they're woven into what contributes to our well-being. So when you do have those areas that you want to struggle with, feel free to be open and authentic about them. You can share them with your buddies. If you want to share them on campus, feel free to. If you want to have a chat with Emma, Ambika, myself, or Alyssa, you can also do that. So, we're there because we understand we're dealing with human beings, and human beings are going to be faced with a host of these other areas. We're not going to coach you much on those areas as part of this program, but we're obviously there to support you, and we can have you distinguish how that is having an impact on your well-being. And we can obviously, in as much as our capacity to support you, to sharing it is the start of transforming something. So that said, when I talked about body composition, I said as a body we are a byproduct of our habits. But what are we made of? Like literally as an embodiment, right? As this piece of substance, this mass, what exactly are we constituted of? We are all made up of energy, right? That's what we are. At any moment in time, we are a force of energy. And I want you to understand this, firstly, scientifically, which is we are literally, in physics, we explain energy as, the property of objects which can be transferred to other objects or converted into different forms. So we're literally that from the moment we are born. Food is only being converted and stored into a different form of cell, which takes up the form of a red blood cell or a muscle tissue cell or a skin tissue cell or hair cell or whatever it is. It's literally just being converted from one form into another. Or it's being converted into a cell called waste, or it's being converted into a cell called fat, right? But energy actually comes in and gets expended in various types. We've heard of kinetic energy, which is the motion. We've heard of potential energy, which is where it's stored, or latent, or nuclear or chemical energy. We hear these various names, and there are ways that we can actually measure this, and we can measure this today both as taken in and both as expended out. And the measure for this is calories or kilojoules, right? So kilojoules is effectively about 4 point something calories, just over 4 calories makes 1 kilojoule. And calorie is the definition of the amount of energy required to raise the temperature of water, an amount of water by 1 degree Celsius. So that's the definition of how a calorie is identified. So now that said, let's look at how we are as energy beyond just the physical, right? So we often think of our bodies and we exist in this world as physical. Let's look at it slightly differently and how we receive and how we store and how we convert this energy. So there's firstly us. There we are. We're born, and we're born as these cute little innocent babies. But we've already been formed to some extent here. We've already had a number of cells put together from the moment daddy's sperm and mommy's egg fertilized and created this little embryo, which grew into over the 9 months, and we were born, and we came out as this baby. And this baby then, over that period, was being contributed to or growing from energy being provided by what our mums ate, and that food was then being only it can only food energy is never created from nothing, and it doesn't disappear. It only transfers from one form to the other, and that's all that we are. And when I apply the science to the baby that I'm raising now here at home, I know that what we're adding to the baby is the right type of energy, and I know that as a baby we have to also get him to expend the same type of energy, to output a certain amount of energy. So from when we're born, we start taking in milk, and then we start taking in food. So we're adding physical energy to us. We get to then spend it through various activities that we engage in. We crawl, we walk, we run, we play at school, we sleep, and we are taking energy through its various physical states. What we also do is then sometimes we starve, we sacrifice, and as a result, we start to form disorders. What's happening is now we're having an emotional relationship. So let's consider our emotional or psychological energy starts to get formed or developed as we form a relationship with food. So we find that when we have this relationship with food, classic example today, I was feeding Kanea, and I have some food at the end of the spoon, and I'm passing it to him. And for the first, I don't know, 10, 12, maybe 15 scoops or 20 something, he's eating. And then at some point, he's done. He doesn't want this anymore. So as my spoon goes towards him, he closes his mouth and he moves his head away. And I would do the same. And so our parents, or many of you as parents who do this to your kids, you have to play games to have them open their mouth and finish the last few bites. But in that moment, what's happening is that the baby distinguishes, or we distinguished as a baby, that we can actually take control of the situation. We can dominate. So we can close our mouth and we can move away, and we will not be told what to do. So we now get to control this other being in front of us called our parent, right? Or our mom or dad or whoever it was that was feeding us. We also get to use our relationship to food and to activity to please people. So you find that as we grow up, we use it to fit in, either in school or in high school or in university, and we get into various other activities like drinking or smoking or drugs. And we all participate with these various forms of energies that we either take into our body or that we will expend. And most of them are building, in addition to physical, they're building our emotional, our psychological, our spiritual energy. And we're either storing or we're either expending this, right? And what happens over a period of time when we are now engaging in various activities which are either dominating or pleasing. And what I mean by dominating is we sometimes, and I share this in one of, there's a number of blogs we've written about this, that you find there are people in our life and in our world who we get angry with or we're annoyed with. Might be a parent, might be an uncle, might be a sibling, might be a former boss, might be a colleague at work. And we start to form this relationship with them where we will dominate them. And we dominate them by cutting them out. And when we cut them out, we actually subconsciously create inside of us a form of negative energy, like Olin was talking about when you watch news or watch drama. We are now playing drama in real life when we do this. And when we do, that drama in our mind is that negativity or that person or whatever is now become part of us. We're now storing within us. So what we do is we are physiologically and biologically changing because we are stressing and we're worrying about something, or we're holding concern of something. Another word for that is worry or stress. And when we do that, we are actually causing changes inside of our body. Like we will release our cortisol level. So if we're angry with our in-laws, if we're angry with our cousins, if we're angry with some bullies at school, that stress begins to impact us, and our hormonal imbalances that are happening is not something that we can see on the surface of our skin. It's not something right now we don't have that technology to see it, but it's being developed. We're going to get wearable technology where we can actually monitor changes in things like our sugar level, our cortisol level, our blood level, our blood sugar level inside our alcohol level in our body by wearable tech. So there are a number of organizations I know of that are working on that, and soon we will be able to see that altering, but right now we can't. We only distinguish it months or years after it has had an impact on our well-being. And over that period, what's happening is we're losing connection with the pure us and the pure energy that we are. And all those things we've been doing all this way are effectively our habits and our habits lead to our byproduct. So this effectively is kind of what happened to me inside of my time in banking, right? So related stresses from the jobs, which I didn't think was stressful because I really enjoyed my job. I enjoyed what I got to do and travel, but what I didn't think was stress was actually stress. You know, when I was working from say 9 in the morning or till about 10 at night, was actually a physical strain of the body being made to sit in a posture and mentally process certain stuff, which is not by default designed to do. Now, I could have actually be, been doing that in a shorter period of time if I managed my energy. So if I increased my focus, so if I and that would increase my productivity. But when I was not aware to that, the way I would do it was I had a relationship with time, which meant that I will take my time to do something, but that had an impact on my mental, my emotional, my psychological, and therefore my physical began to alter. What we're looking to do over these 90 days is to start to rewire and incorporate new habits and letting go of these old ones that we're holding on that are having an impact on us. And as a result, we'll get to reverse from, person on the left to on the right. That was me springing with joy and full life in me after I distinguished that all this stuff that I was holding on to emotionally, mentally, spiritually was also impacting me physically. So there are many people that will be on this program and I've done this program, and there's some doing the July challenge who have can get the technical knowledge of this, can incorporate the science of this is the amount of calories in, this is the amount of calories out, but then their body is this hotbed of stress and cortisol because they aren't getting the correlation between how their lifestyle, which they think they enjoy, is actually mentally and emotionally stressing them, or the grudges that they might be holding on people in their life and family and cutting them out is actually having an impact on their well-being, not the person that they're holding the grudge on. So it's really crucial and key that we understand this and we explore this and we begin to look at where can we let go of those things that we're holding on to that are impacting our well-being, and redesign our habits. As we say, we first make our habits and then our habits make us. So that's what we're looking to do at a foundation level. Focus on 747, and each week we can add one more thing to it. We can take out one of the old things from it. So we've already requested that you avoid certain foods, you incorporate the 747, and tomorrow's day 10. I'm really excited to see the updates. If some of you will be really busy tomorrow, and it's a busy day, my invite to you is with some good lighting. Make sure you get your day 10 photos tonight. You are also most likely lightest in the morning. So up to you, but if you won't have time to do it tomorrow and you'd love to do, which is our invite and our promise to you to get the most results doing the program by design, do share your day 10 pictures tomorrow, and we'd love to see what magic you've caused in 10 days so far. Okay, so if that is habits make us, let's if we make our habits, first we make our habits, let's have habits make us. That said, let's look at how we can design what our daily routine will look like. So I'm going to offer you some of the various things that you can incorporate. It's up to you to take points from this to start to design your routine, right? So this is nothing here is prescriptive. Nothing here is being forced upon you. What we're sharing is various things that we have either incorporated or that we know many others incorporate out there that really help and support them. And also, Olin's share right at the start was a beautiful share. So there's a lot that we can get from there. So many of you may have heard of the book, and if you haven't, I recommend that you do take it on. It's always good to get back into reading. If you're people that have been out of reading, it's called The Miracle Morning. And in that book, there are a number of habits that he talks of starting our day, and we kick off with that power start. We really set up our day for success, and when we have our day for success, we have a week set up for success, and our year, and so on. So first thing to do in the morning, something I started, I don't know if you saw 3 weeks ago, we introduced the power promise concept, which was at the start, we had to incorporate one very simple small habit and then start adding to it. So one thing I want to do is I want to improve my hydration, and I want to get off caffeine. And so every morning it was default reaction for me to get out of bed. I might drink a sip or two only of the water bottle by my bedside. So I sleep with water by my bedside. But then I would go straight for the kettle, and my default thing would be to make a coffee. And I'd sit in front of the TV as I kind of wake up from zombie zone. But now what I've made a point to do is really doing the hot water. Now I incorporated this at many points through my challenge, but I've never done it with the consistency as it's the first thing I do, or it is I have to first complete the glass of hot water before I complete my coffee. And so that's what I've started doing. So we recommend a glass of hot water with lemon that helps us alkalize our body, some form of breathing or meditation or yoga to start your morning. And another thing you can incorporate is a 7-minute exercise. So Ambika has started, as you've seen, she's been sharing a few videos, but we also have a 7-minute HIIT workout. Inside of the group, the page called FITBANKER Campus, in the group, there's a section at the top where you can click on photos or albums. Under albums, there are various things like snack ideas, recipes. There are a few recipes there. There's the 7-minute HIIT workout. There are a few other charts that you might use, like tracking or recording. So take your time to go and also explore that so that you find out what's there. And some of these are tools that you can use and reference. There's not a whole world there, but there is some good stuff that are just the pragmatic ones that you need to incorporate. Getting an exercise start in the morning, that could be you going for a 30-minute walk, or that could be a 7-minute HIIT exercise. And the purpose of this is we have to do what's called a pulse raiser. You want to raise your heart rate in the morning. And what we get to do by that is we actually begin to first fill our body with endorphins and serotonin, which are our happy hormones. And when we get that in the morning, we are basically not allowing our bodies or our minds to be a hotbed for the reverse, which is hormones that would otherwise make us feel emotionally, mentally, spiritually low. Or, I wake up in the morning with what we call blues, or you're feeling slightly depressed in the morning. You can alter that by incorporating a very simple start to your mornings, right? And remember, nothing changes if nothing changes. So anytime our body has to interrupt a pattern, we have these neurological patterns that are so used to doing something some way, it's going to take a while for you to create this new pattern firing up, right? But 3 weeks for it to start, and it takes 12 weeks for it to become permanent. And that's the science behind the design of 90-day programs. They are 12 weeks and 6 days. So we are doing this with scientific backing as to what is going to cause lasting transformation. And you've seen many people who did this program over a year or two ago still have the bulk of their weight that they lost off, or still have their high energy that they took on, or their increased strength. So second is meals. We have within us, we have a little engine inside of our bodies, and our engines need fuel, which is effectively our food. And we want that food to not be put in overload, so that it's overflow and it's not being processed well. Having smaller and often meals is better, and consuming foods that are functional. So what I mean by functional is that the food should either support what activity you're about to engage into. So if it's going to the gym, you want to take foods that are like a pre-workout. Or if it's foods that are going to rebuild exercise or muscle that's been used after exercise, you want to have protein post-workout. You want to have snacks during your workout. You want to have snacks in between meals throughout your day. So a key thing that we're taking on this program, if you see, is we are consuming low GI carbs, but still 40% of our energy comes from good carbs, and we are trying to consume more protein and a good amount of good fat as well. Smaller meals keep our metabolism high and preventing us overeating. If we go too hungry for too long, or if you miss your breakfast, many people, and I used to think that it's logical, if I want to lose weight, I should eat 2 meals a day instead of 3. So I would always miss breakfast. But that is actually the opposite, because when you miss a meal, you're telling your body that I am not going to get energy provided to this body, therefore can you go into conservative mode. So your body learns how to actually store fat, not to burn it. So you want to think of your body as a fire, and you're putting in small twigs. Smaller twigs burn faster than big logs. So think of your meals in that way, that the smaller the meals and the more simple the chemical structure of that food, the easier it will break down to boost your metabolism. So when we talk of vegetables and fruits, those are structured as what are called monosaccharides, or simple sugar structures, versus polysaccharides, which are complex structures. They would take slightly longer to break down and burn. Similarly, when it comes to certain fats, there are good fats and bad fats, and we talk about certain fats, they break down easier and release more energy, like coconut oil. So, understanding this, and we will look at them in more depth over upcoming webinars. So start to eat before you get too hungry, and stop before you get too full. I don't know how to measure this, but there's a saying which is eat to the 80% full concept. So there are many times where we are actually 80% full and we think I'm going for second servings. You can still go for second servings, but you should be a judge of this. Sometimes if you are 80% full, maybe what you need is a glass of water, and then make a judgment call whether you still want to go for seconds. Optimal meal times is basically you want to space out consumption of food every 3 to 4 hours. So if you are, depending on the time you wake up, these times will vary. So say you have your initial meal or a light snacky breakfast between 7 and 8 a.m., something at 11, something at 1, something at 4, something at 7. So around your 11 a.m. or your 4 p.m. would be something like a protein bar or a shake or a piece of fruit or some nuts, some nuts with blueberries, some guacamole, a protein yogurt, whatever it is. So something lighter in between there. Again, this will vary based on the type of lifestyle you have, and when you have the intense amount of energy expenditure, you will adjust what you consume at which of those meals. Hydration is key, and Arlene mentioned that she's trying to get to 2 liters. I'm going to invite you guys that for this program and over the course of this program, try to be between 2 and 3 liters. And on days when we do what's called trek and treat, which means we will be going for a trek and we burn 1,000 calories, you may be able to join us, or if you cannot join us, we invite you to do one in your own hood. And that's usually the first one is the 5th Saturday of your challenge. So remember, 5th Saturday, you can put it in your diary. We've passed 1 Saturday, this weekend, the 2nd Saturday. So we want 3 Saturdays after that. That weekend, you want to go and engage in an activity where it's usually 15 kilometers of a walk does it, but you burn 1,000 calories. And on those days, you want to be consuming between 3 and 4 liters of water. Our mind processes thirst as hunger. So sometimes we're thirsty and our mind will actually tell us we're hungry. So we often reach out for food. But if we stay hydrated frequently enough, you will find that we don't feel that hungry. So a really key aspect of understanding that many of us that are feeling hungry and overeating is actually we are providing food to where we are thirsty. So it's very key to understand that and stay hydrated for that purpose as well. Walking after meals is really key. Many of us are going to have supper now or have had supper. And after your supper, it's very easy for us to sit and watch TV. Hashtag old habits. It's very easy for us to go to sleep, or it's very easy for us to just maybe sit and do some work. But you want to rewire how your body is being conditioned to operate. If you consume food and then you go for a walk, you're effectively commanding your body to say, listen, body, you receive food, and you have 2 or 3 choices you can do. You can either convert that food, bulk of it, into energy, or you can convert it into storage. The activity that you do subsequent to the consumption of food dictates what will happen to that food. So if you start walking, you're creating or commanding your body to break down food for energy. So really key to do that, especially the last meal of the day. Try to keep our last meals of the day with less energy providing food, so less carb content and more protein and fat content, because we're about to go to sleep, and it's when we sleep that muscle actually gets rebuilt. It's when we sleep that we replenish stores of energy. I say this specifically here, and I'm not sure if Vaishali is on this call, if she's been able to join, but she shared something which I thought looked really, really, really sexy. It was this savory type of oat recipe. And not sure if she's on, but that is great, and I'd love to get the recipe. But as a timing of day, unless you're going to go for a walk or your gym session after that, it might not be the best thing to do, taking it late at night. Okay, so Another one is Warren Buffett's secret of success. I'll often cite people from finance or banking because of my background. But Warren Buffett often talks about learning to say no. And while he uses it to say no to certain stocks, my invite to you is to learn to say no to certain social events or activities which you know that when you engaged in those habits, had you consumed X amount of alcohol, or had you consumed X amount of unhealthy foods, or we're going to a particular restaurant, and at that restaurant, you know, there's nothing healthy. So learn to either say no to going there, or if you're going there, be responsible that you're on a 90-day program. And so what I would do, which would sound weird, but I'd actually have like a protein bar and a shake before I go for that meal. So when I'm gone for that meal, first of all, I feel pretty satisfied before I go. I've got good macros inside me, and what I would order there would be something that is light and healthy. Like it would just be a salad, or I might have something light, and I won't be I won't be you know lured into consuming something that's very carby rich, or something that I didn't really intend to have, but I as a result of it being shared around the table, I consumed it. So that's why I invite you guys to get used to redesigning your life. Is going to involve saying, actually, can't make drinks today with office work colleagues. I have a gym session, or I have my body pump class tonight. So the more you put in your diary around fitness classes, around your scheduled walks, around your scheduled meditation, around your scheduled yoga, the less you will let junk habits creep into those time slots. Macro tracking, I mentioned earlier, just this once. I'm asking you to do it just this once for 90 days. You can see I've put the word key and the asterisk against point number 1, 9, and 10. I cannot emphasize that enough. Those are some of the biggest influences of what will cause a shift on this program. And 10th point is we can't manage what we can't measure. So I'm going to say that you'll receive an email. The charts are also there inside of the FITBANKER campus, where you can record each week things like fat percentage, things like your muscle mass, things like how long you plank, how many push-ups you do, and so on. And if you can measure them each week, Sunday mornings is a great time to do it. So if you free up your Sunday mornings to do your measurements, then you get to see actually which direction you're moving. What's also great about Sunday mornings is that on Saturday night, when you're out and you're thinking, should I have that food or should I have that drink? You're like, it's really going to mess up my readings tomorrow morning. And so you make a wiser decision the night before. And so this is a quote that Tony Robbins often says, we can't manage that which we can't measure. So my invite to you guys, start using those tools so that you will get as one more email that is coming to you. And that said, let's look finally at energy accountability. So how do we manage energy? I want you guys to understand this. We talked about it before, but I'm going to emphasize it again so that it's clear. How do you look at what you're recording in MyFitnessPal? So firstly, the image on the left, there's a goal which says 1200. This person has to consume 1200. For the record, nobody on this program should consume under 1000 calories. When you start to consume under 1000 calories, more likely than not, you're compromising your other systems like your immune system and your digestive system and possibly your reproductive system. So we need a minimal amount of calories for functioning of those systems. And so let's all consume at least 1000 calories. Food, when you consume, it then tells you what you've consumed. When you spend exercise and your Runkeeper is synced to MyFitnessPal, it will remove or increase your allowance of remaining. And it says your net consumption is 922. Therefore, you have 278 remaining, as an example in this image. Now, that's something for you to look at as you progress throughout the day. On my MyFitnessPal today, I'm somewhere like I have a budget of 1700, and I have done exercise of about 500, and I have about 700 remaining. So it's at this point in time, I know what I'm going to have for supper, and I want to create a deficit or a remaining. For me, I want to create a remaining of 500. But what we recommend for all of you guys that are on a weight loss, you want your remaining to be between 300 and 800. On no day should it be under 300, and on no day should it be, you don't have to go over 800. That might be overdoing it. So try to stick between 300 and 800 as your remaining calories. Now, if you had a remaining every day consistently, you measured everything that you walked or exercised, and if you measured everything that you consumed, you would, and if you created a deficit or a remaining in green of 500, after 7 days, you would have created a deficit of 3,500 calories. Now, some of you might remember from prior webinar, the amount of calories to burn 1 pound of fat is 3,500 calories. So that's the science behind how to lose 1 pound a week. What we found, however, is that people that work to create a 500 deficit, somehow we tend to lose a kilo a week. And part of that is got to do with, obviously, the calories we burn as part of our daily activity. The second thing to look at is the one on your right. It's very easy to look at this pie chart, but the pie chart as percentages is only as good as the total amount, right? So you might get 40% carb, 30 fat, and 30 protein, but if you have that of a lower total, that doesn't necessarily mean healthy. So you want to look at the nutrition label. This one, you want to look at your goal. So it tells you total fat, the goal is 42. This person had 43. You want to look at protein. The goal is 150. This person had 155. That's perfect. That's what we want to see, that you touch or exceed your protein. The sugars, the goal is 75. This person's had only 29. Amazing. It's very easy to blow our sugar budget. It's very easy to blow our carb budget. This person has just touched their carb. But if you, at the end of the day, if you're below carbs, if you're below fat, that's good, that's fine. If you are above protein, that's perfect. If you're below protein and you've blown your sugar, your carb, and your fat, then you have created the wrong balance. You have sourced calories from the wrong macros. So that's something you really want to get mastery and understanding over, is that the source of our calories really matters, and that's why we focus on macros more than just the number of calories. So here's a bonus invite around habit building. Just to acknowledge, we're at 8:30. We got 5 more minutes, maybe less, 4 more minutes. So bonus invitation to build your habit muscle is look at some new habit or new challenge that you have always wanted to do and you've never done. Over this program, you will discover your body having new levels of energy, new level of mental confidence. You will have increased strength, and there's a lot that you can discover and distinguish and developing your learning muscle by getting into a learnable situation or scenario. So my invite is sign up to a challenge like climbing a mountain or something like Tough Mudder or a marathon, or sign up to some new classes. Like you might, and this might be either an old passion that you've not done for a while, like maybe you used to be a magician and you want to go back to learning magic, or you used to play the piano as a kid and you want to go back to doing that, or you want to learn some kind of Latin dancing. Sign up to something that is new, not something that you already do. So if you already do classes like singing classes, doing those again is not introducing a new habit. What I want you to discover is the habit building muscle. And it must be something that you sign up to that requires you to go and practice at least 4 times or up to 12 times over the course of this challenge. So between 4 to 12 sessions. And be a lotus even in that arena, which means be open to being contributed to, right? Something you don't understand, there's nothing wrong about not understanding it, but there is just an opportunity for you to ask, what can I do here? Here's an opportunity to ask for an idea. Here's an opportunity to ask, this is what I've thought as an idea. Do you guys have any other suggestions? So keep being a lotus and give up any point of view you have of yourself. Last week was about giving up points of views. If you think you're not a natural, like I say, and it often shows up for me, I'm not a natural runner. I want you to discover your inner child. Kid isn't born running and told he's not a proper runner, right? Kids run. They don't know. They run without judgment. So whatever it is, distinguish that and bring your inner child there. Give up trying to be perfect. Give up trying to score. Give up, you judging yourself based on people giving you a certificate or not. And whatever it is you're doing, do share your learnings on campus or on Transforming a Billion Lives and with the hashtag. And the final bit today is introducing the concept of teams or buddies, the power of community. This quote by Mia Hamm: I am a member of a team and I rely on the team. I defer to it and sacrifice for it because the team, not the individual, is the ultimate champion. I want you to start relating to yourselves inside of this program that you aren't doing your own challenge, but that you are playing a role so that everyone else on this webinar, which is By the way, last webinar and this webinar, I want to acknowledge this challenge. You guys have had a phenomenal turnout, right? There is something about someone in this group, and a few someones in this group are playing at a certain level that's having everybody show up. So I invite you guys to keep doing that. We created teams, which are smaller teams that you have and you connect with over WhatsApp, just so that you can have a smaller space to check in and share on a daily basis. We invite you to create a little team name. Some people do a little team intro video, or we do a poster of your team. So that's up to your team to create a name and share that there. I believe, however, what we're going to do is we might have smaller teams, or it will be buddies. I'm going to confirm with Ambika or Emma. If in any case you'd love to be a team leader, there are some additional calls that Ambika and Emma run every fortnight on Monday evenings. And as a result, you get some additional coaching on that. But anybody can join these calls. So if you'd like to be a team leader, please send that on the Facebook Messenger that I'd love to be a team leader, and we will get you, we will build a team around you, and you get a host of things. You don't need to be somebody that's perfect to be a team leader. You just need to be somebody that loves people and that loves being someone that I will communicate this to them. I will check in on them, and it might be uncomfortable for me, but I will grow doing that. So all you need is that right mindset and attitude to doing it. And you could be 14 years old, or you can be 65 years old on this program, and you can be a team leader. So age, of course, and gender or anything else doesn't matter. Anyone and everyone is a team leader. Okay, that said, let's wrap up. You guys love watching movies. We're talking about movies. Let's watch some really useful movies. So here's an assignment. We have movie night this week, which is I want you guys to go and watch the movie Fed Up. It's available on YouTube. It's also available on Netflix. If you search on YouTube, it's called Fed Up Official 2014. So search for Fed Up Official 2014 and watch this movie. You can watch it with your parents. You can watch it with your kids. You can watch it with your partners. It is going to be a phenomenal eye-opener. Really, really important that you watch this movie now. Watching it now will make a significant impact on next week's webinar. You will get it at a different level, and the webinar thereafter. Share your intro video if you haven't done that on the closed group, and record and do share yourself, being in action around 747. Either your run keeper mapped route, you want to share that, you in a gym, you having a smoothie, whatever it may be. So please do share that, and you can also share it to our public page. You can share it on campus. And what I'd love to create, this is a new thing we've brought in here, is for any of you, this is not something that we provide or there's a template. But for any of you that like drafting what your schedule a week looks like, I'm going to invite you guys, or if you're not used to it and you want to take it on, draft what your week looks like in terms of these are the new classes I'm signing up to. This is what my Monday morning is like. This is what my Thursday evening is like. This is my walk times. Create that routine. There is a 40% increased likelihood that by documenting what your week will look like, that it will happen. So create and share your weekly routine. You might want to create it to try it, and you might struggle to stick to it. You might stick to it, but give it a stab at creating in any template or format that works for you, and do share it with the guys on campus. All right, guys, that said, that's the end of the webinar. We have gone slightly over. This should have been within an hour. Just want to check, are there any questions before we sign out?
Hi, Ronnie, it's Marion.
Hey, Marion.
Hi, just a quick question. I want to work on my body fat, percentage and all that. So on my recording on the app, do I lower the percentage of fat allowed?
So your macros, there's a section called settings, and under settings, a section called micronutrient and macronutrient settings, or calorie and macronutrient settings. You want your fat percentage to be 30, your protein to be 30, and your carbs to be 40. Now, depending on your body type, and I think for your body type, you can do this. If you want to reduce your fat percentage, here's an important thing for a lot of us to note and pay attention to. Apologies, I've just seen Vaishali's there, but was muted at my end. and she's now unmuted, is fats don't necessarily make us fat, carbs do, right? So carbs convert to storage into what's called glycogen, and if they're not burnt, they then go into storage in a few days into fat. So you can reduce, if you want, your fat intake to 25%, but you also want to keep your carb to about keep your carb at 40, and your protein would go up to 35.
Okay, cool.
That's an option.
Excellent. Thank you very much.
All right, you're welcome. Okay, I've just unmuted as well. Jag, Vaishali, and Venetia, who I didn't notice were muted. If there are any questions from you guys?
Yes, yes, please. Venetia here.
Hey, Venetia.
A few slides back, you said there was a list, and you said macro track for just this once. Further back, and I didn't understand what that meant. Yes, there, number 9.
Yeah. So you know, earlier on in the webinar, I explained that when Oline was saying that she's not measuring her food and stuff, I said that many of us in this program will have a view when we see this lovely vegan cake that I'm going to have this cake just this once. But I'm inviting you to do the opposite, which is just this once for 90 days of your life. I'm inviting you to take on the 747, and one of them is macro tracking. So recording your food on MyFitnessPal is called macro tracking, and my invite is that for just this once, 90 days of your life, record your food and see what you will learn over the period.
So does that mean I can eat the cake as long as I record it?
No, you can't eat the cake. So the cake is still,
chocolate.
The cake is still one of the banned foods. So if it's a food that is forbidden, we invite you to avoid it. But here's something for you to know: if you are somebody that loves chocolate, as an example, you can order, like what I have is chocolate flavored native whey protein from My Protein, and I make amazing chocolate shakes, and they're just filled with health because they're 95% protein. So I invite you guys to get creative. If you cannot have that, what can you have? And there are loads of options of healthier chocolate flavored foods that are not sugary and with the wrong fats that we don't need.
So is chocolate banned?
Yes, it is. Yeah. You can have it on the 5th weekend when you do your 1,000 calories. That weekend you can eat whatever you want. So it also, you'll appreciate it a bit more for 5 weeks because it will be like this thing you're waiting for. So let that be a treat for you on the 5th Saturday.
Okay, I've already cheated this week, but there we go. I'll move on.
Yeah, if you cheat, here's another thing, guys. If you cheat, if you trip, if you fall, whatever label you want to give it, we like to give it a positive name called treat, and we give it on the trek and treat day. So when you will burn that much, then it's a treat. But what you don't want to do is make yourself wrong for it. So whenever you trip up, you have to quickly get up, dust your knees off, and get back on the program. The challenge begins every morning. It begins every meal. It begins every lunch. But at the end of the day, it is a challenge. So, don't joke yourself because this is your program.
Yeah.
All right. Awesome. Any other questions, Jag?
Yeah, just a quick one. So, for the 747, the 4 sessions that we have to do during the week, what are good examples of that if you're just...
A good example of that is Monday, you go and do... Yeah, are you there? Sorry, Jag, can you hear me?
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah, can you hear me?
Yeah, beautiful examples of what the
I can.
What the 4 sessions look like. So 4 sessions means that it has to be resistance training and it has to involve you working out your whole body. So not every day you work your whole body, but on Monday you might go and do, say, your chest and tricep routine. Or on Monday you might go for a body pump class, which includes weights. Or you might go for from home, you might do a 7-minute HIIT routine, which includes your body weight, where you're also doing things like push-ups and squats. So you're engaging all parts of your body, right? Rather than just walking, which is just our legs, or just running, which is, again, just predominantly our legs that are working out. You want to have, for 4 of those days, resistance, something which is having us tap into what's called our anaerobic energy system. So after we've done 10 or 12 reps of something, we feel out of breath. That out of breathlessness, which we will talk about on webinar 4, is what's called tapping into our anaerobic energy system. Most of us do exercise where we're just using our aerobic, which is just running or walking. And you'll get your training programs this week, either hopefully before Friday, but by Sunday latest. So it just depends if there's any complex responses in your questionnaires. Okay, any other questions, guys?
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, Ronnie, I have a question, please, if you can.
Yeah, yes, Bonnie.
It's basically it touches on what you've just spoken about. So with so one of my goals really is to sculpt. So I really want to sculpt my arms.
Yeah.
My arms. So I've been doing I've been using resistance bands because I don't have weights. Will that still work?
It likely won't, especially if you've been using them for a while, because the resistance bands may not be providing any further resistance. Our muscles grow on what's called overload principle, which is the old saying, no pain, no gain. So if it's not providing that additional resistance, then you want to increase that. And how you do that in the gym is simply you move on to a heavier set of weights 1 week to the next. There's also what's called progressive overload, which means once we grow into those weights, we then go on to the next level. But then there's another way you can also increase resistance, and you could do this with your resistance bands, which is if the time under tension, so the time you are doing 1 rep, so you might use a resistance band and you're stretching your legs apart and you're doing a squat. If going down for that squat and up takes 1 second, try doing that for 4 seconds, right? So 2 seconds down, 2 seconds up. And that increased time with the same resistance actually taps into what's called our isotonic contraction of muscles. And so it does hit our muscles at a different level. A big thing, again, I would recommend you guys do is if you have in your gym body pump as a class, I highly recommend body pump. It phenomenally taps into that science of what I'm talking about, where we really increase muscle recruitment. So if you're people that don't like the machines in the gym and whatever story you have about them, try body pump, and you might fall in love with that. There are other similar ones that also use weights, but body pump's one of the good ones.
Okay, thank you. And so would just a cardio workout, like an exercise video, be similar to body pump, or is that just a normal aerobic workout?
If you do the exercise video where you are using your body weight as the resistance, so you're doing things like push-ups, or you're doing squats, or you're doing box jumps, so you're jumping onto a step, right? That means you're having to lift your body weight, right? So that is the resistance. And you can also do that slower, and that's using your body weight as resistance too.
Okay, I'll do that instead.
Sorry.
Thank you.
So is a HIIT work a resistant workout then?
It is. It incorporates both. So we'll talk about that more in webinar 4. Okay. But the popularity of HIIT is that it taps into both aerobic and anaerobic. And one of the things it does, it also is an efficient way to trigger fat burning. So anyone looking to reduce fat percentage, HIIT workouts or your boot camp classes or body pump, and doing 30-minute sessions of those are really shown to contribute to fat burning and muscle building.
Awesome, thank you.
Ronnie, can I ask one last question, please? Sorry.
Yeah, okay, one last one, and then we've got to wrap up.
Is there a particular workout that I can do that will target fat around the midriff?
Fat around the midriff is 2 things. So this is a very important question, always comes up the world over, right, in fitness. And this is something all of you will want to know. Our midriff has 2 things. We have beneath our belly, we have muscle. So when we do things like crunches, planking, sit-ups, or mountain climbers, what we're doing is we are building our ab muscles or our hip flexors, right? So the muscles that attach our abs to the tops of our thighs, right? That's what we're doing. But doing that is building muscle. It's not burning fat. On top of our muscle, there are layers of fat. Now, to reduce that fat, we have to do 2 things. We have to eat right, so we cannot afford to mess up on tracking macros, right? We have to minimize the carb and fat consumption later in the day, and we have to increase cardio. So the walking and eating right contribute to the fat burn. The crunches and the sit-ups and the leg raises contribute to the muscle building side. So if I were to add something that would help, that is there's what's called, we do these Spider-Man mountain climbers, where you are like in a plank position and you bring your knees to the side of your body, left side and then down, right side and then down, and you alternate. Something like that with a very slow movement, doing it for about 1.5 minutes or 2 minutes of a plank is going to help that. Doing the plank itself, doing what's called an ab roller. There's an ab roller wheel where you hold your hand on this wheel, you extend your body out, you bring it in. All those will support that, but they will not work on their own if your nutrition and your cardio are not happening at separate times of the day as well properly.
Okay, that's perfect. Thank you.
All right, awesome. Great question. All right, guys, we're going to wrap up there. Thanks for being on, and see you on campus. Please ask any questions there. And if you haven't got all your questionnaires in, it will have an impact on the group. So please get your questionnaires in if you haven't done so. We have gone through most of them, and we will start from tomorrow getting through them. And then the way our system works, they're batch processed, so they will come out to you all at once. So hopefully most of you guys have them in. And have an awesome rest of the day and awesome rest of the week. See you guys, and please respond for those who are being team leaders on the chat. Bye for now.
Right,
Thank you,
thanks.
Ronnie. Thanks.
Bye.